Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm class of 2016 here, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
Hi, Adrian. So my first question for you is, when did you realize that you were trans?
I guess for me, it was a process that I underwent, especially with coming here and with all this sort of acceptance and dialogue around gender. I come from a place, Houston, Texas, where it's not like it wasn't a thing to talk about, and this sort of education and discussion is not present. So, in retrospect, I always have been, but in terms of like acknowledging and beginning to act on that as a part of myself has been a long process, which like involves a lot of unlearning and internalized transphobia and stuff. So I guess in terms of like when did I actually come to terms with that, it would have been my first year actually, and the beginning of this year, my second year, I came out to everyone socially. But I think Mount Holyoke was definitely a catalyst for me in that respect.
Well, congrats on that. I'm glad that you had that supportive
Thanks.
environment here. Do you feel like your identity, or like kind of your feelings, maybe if you were feeling like maybe you were transgender but you didn't have the vocabulary about it, do you think that affected your decision to come to Mount Holyoke or to apply here in the first place?
I mean, when I first applied here, I still identified as female, but just the sort of and I came here after I visited, so after I had experience with the community here. If it was definitely a more open environment in order to talk about that things, and I think that's what I valued most when I came here. So does that answer your question? I think I just lost my
Somewhat.
Okay.
It somewhat answers it. So this is a hard question to answer, but how do you think your experience would differ if you had chosen to enroll in a co-ed institution?
Hmm. I mean, I don't think I'm not sure because a lot of my friends that go to co-ed schools also have similar discussions about gender and about identity and about being trans, but definitely not on the same level that it is here. Like this environment is a liberal arts school and it's more progressive, at least than from what I know. So I think it would have been harder socially, not personally, but in terms of having to justify myself. I think that that being in a different environment would have definitely negatively affected that process. But honestly, probably not too much.
So maybe it depends more upon like what kind of school it is and what the atmosphere of the school is than what genders are accepted.
Yeah, definitely about the different discussions and everything that are going on. Because just based upon my conversations with people that do go to co-ed schools, there isn't as much of a conversation. And this school is very small, so the discussions here are very personal, and I feel like going to a bigger university would be a lot more overwhelming in that respect. And here it's easy to find yourself, whereas being at a co-ed school with a lot of cis men and other, in one respect there might be a lot more diversity in this sort of community, but I don't know that it would necessarily be encouraging. I don't know. I don't. I was
Okay.
just speculating.
Yeah, well, you don't have a crystal ball, so.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you kind of a sad question, but then I'll ask you a happy one after. Have you had any negative experiences in relation to your gender identity at Mount Holyoke College that you'd like to speak of?
Sure. Okay. Do you mind if I be very specific about it? There are a couple of instances just with professors
I don't know if you should say
Not
names.
no, not like that. Not like that. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I don't know how. It
You
would
can be
just be like
specific,
examples.
just like no like names, but like I hope if
Oh,
something
no,
happened,
I
you can
wouldn't
report
know.
that stuff.
But I mean, I don't, it's been interesting in the school in terms of dealing with that sort of issue, because on one hand you have a student body that's very active in talking about these things and very open about everything, but there's also this disconnect between a lot of the administration and and the faculty here who aren't quite used to talking about these things the same way that we are. So there's a definite like miscommunication sometimes. Here, I'll do this for you. Sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
But I mean, just in terms of like the administration, I feel one of my friends actually put this really well. She was talking about like the Mount Holyoke page, like the main page where you see all these wonderful posed pictures of everybody, and my friend is someone who identifies as female but dresses very masculinely, and we were talking and she was like, yeah, someone told me that we would never see a picture of ourselves on that website, and I guess when you're trying to sell the concept of a women's college, it's really easy to throw like trans people under the bus when you're trying to sell an image that's really about femininity and encouraging femininity, but isn't truly representative of everyone that goes here, regardless of gender identity or presentation or all of that. And like, and in terms of like a classroom, I've been, one teacher actually argued with me about this. A lot of professors have been both really encouraging and really personable. Like a lot of the faculty here are really sweet and understanding and educated, but some of them don't understand where I'm coming from and have continued to misgender me in class and everything after I've spoken with them, and it's a really weird like space to sort of navigate, but so that is a very real thing. I can be more specific if you want me to, but
Yeah, you can be more specific.
okay. I don't know if you want like a story, if you want like a general
you can give
summation.
a story. You can totally give us.
Okay, I don't. Alrighty. Okay. For example, I don't know. I don't want to take up too much of your phone memory.
It's okay. I almost never take videos anyway.
Okay. Okay. For example, to give an example of a disconnect with professors, I take this Tai Chi class this semester, and the very first day we were told, oh, you have to cross your legs one way or cross your legs another way.
Wait, can you demonstrate
Oh,
that
no,
again? Can I like okay, never mind.
Don't get my legs.
Okay.
But no, there's a certain way that you cross your legs during meditation, which is one is for men and one is for women, which is dumb. But she was showing us how to do that, and I guess when you're doing it, you just do it the opposite way depending on your gender. And I was doing it the other way because I was the only, I guess, male-identifying person in that class. Sorry. But she like, it was like really, we were all in a big circle, right? And she was like, hey, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, no, I'm not. And like, she's this old Japanese like lady. And so I know that there's a weird disconnect like by age and by culture, I'm assuming. So I mean, it was just really awkward, and she just like held on to that for a while, and everyone was kind of staring at me, and I was just like, no. And she like tried to bring it back and everything, and it was just horribly embarrassing to be like called out in that manner. So and just that's just an example of stuff that I guess in terms of like faculty happens a lot, but the students here are for the most part pretty good about talking about gender and learning about it, which is absolutely wonderful. And I think it's a great environment to, yeah, go through that in.
Yeah. Do you think that being at a women's college increases the frequency of being misgendered?
I mean, absolutely, because especially, when you walk through the gates of Mount Holyoke, it's assumed that you're female. And if that changes, there's the definite, persistence about emphasizing that it is indeed a women's college. So, I think so. I mean, in terms of, like I said about being in a classroom setting, or being in a work setting, it's definitely it does increase the chance of being misgendered only because of the school's reputation.
On the flip side, positive things. So now's the happy question. Have you had any really positive experiences to do with your gender identity at Mount Holyoke that you'd like to add?
Yes. Okay. I've had a few professors that have been really good about engaging and talking about these things. The place that I work out now, I work as a peer career advisor in the career development center right now, and they're actually, everyone who works there is super wonderful and super great, and once I mentioned, I guess, my pronouns just in passing, they told each other about it, and it's cool. And I had one professor last semester, again, a PE class, who, after I corrected my gender to one student, she just kind of rolled with it and was very inclusive about that sort of thing as far as pronouns. And I don't know, I've had a lot of really positive experiences, especially with sometimes other people in the trans community here, and it's really encouraging, actually.
Yay! Okay, that's great. Sorry, that was kind of a weird reaction. Just wondering, in your opinion, how do you think we can make Mount Holyoke a more accepting place for people who are not cisgender females?
In terms of making this a more accepting place, I think the first place to start would be through discussion, especially like I said, with the disconnect between the staff and the students and the administration. I think encouraging discussion among art professors and among the administration about gender here is important. There have been a lot of discussions that have been kind of ignited through the Mo Honest campaign, which is primarily about race, but it's also inspired a lot of side conversations, especially with our required dorm meetings and whatever, about what people wanted to see from the administration. And I think that would be the first step in improving the quality of our lives here.
Okay, some good ideas there. So my next question for you goes kind of deep. How do you feel like being trans affects your gender privilege, in particular in comparison to a cisgender male or a cisgender female?
I mean, I don't know if I can really speak for that very much, only because I am perceived to be female most of the time by everyone who doesn't know me. Only because I know, at least for the moment, that I look really feminine, and so I'm not perceived as male in those sort of situations, and so I guess I can't really speak for having male privilege, but among people that do know me personally, I haven't been aware of that, only because being male is so abnormal here, and sort of highlighted, I guess. But I'd imagine that, once I start presenting more as male, I'm sure there's a lot more that would go into that. But it's something I honestly haven't quite experienced yet. And while there's a weird, need to disregard trans people, I think in terms of just being perceived by someone or like passing as male in my case, I think that it would definitely, I just lost track of what I was saying. I am so sorry.
You were saying in terms of being perceived as male.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of being perceived as male, that's not something that I, can do right now. So I'd imagine that male privilege would affect me in the future, but not here at the moment. But of course, that's only my experience, and I can't, really speak for that yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so all this is also affected by how much you pass and how you present.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's only my individual idea of how that works, and I mean, yeah, just only because I perceive as female all the time.
Yeah,
I think I don't know.
Constantly misgendered. So my last question for you is just: do you have anything that you want to add?
Oh. I guess not really, other than I'll just emphasize again that coming here to Mount Holyoke has really opened a lot of discussions for me in terms of, personal exploration and education about gender. And while it is a women's college, and there's that weird idea that's gonna actually follow me around, coming to a women's college, it's still really refreshing to be in an environment that encourages the exploration of gender for the most part, at least among the student body. So I think overall my experience here has been positive. Yeah, I guess that's really...
Yay, Mount Holyoke. I guess while you're talking, that made me think of another question, if I can ask you another one. How do you feel about the school being called a women's college?
I mean, while that's not strictly true, I see why it's marketed that way, only because it encourages the embracing of people that aren't subject to that sort of privilege on an educational standpoint. So, I mean, I can see why they would do that, mostly because of the history and everything. But I guess when they have a tendency, at least the administration does, or in big group settings, to address everyone as ladies, or instead of just students, which is not really that hard to do. But there's a definite tendency to assume that everyone that goes here is female, only because this place is marketed under the label of a women's college, and so it's also hard to, I guess, feel like you belong here sometimes when people do try to influence that sort of image. It's weird, but on an individual level, it's refreshing. But there's a lot of weird disconnections as far as who should be here and who shouldn't, especially in those big group settings where I can't stand up for myself, and so, or anyone else for that matter. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then that made me think of another thing. This will be the last one, I promise. So do you feel like there's a difference between the terms female and male versus women and men? Do you feel like there's a difference between those and what they mean somehow?
For the most part, I've come to see gender as more of a personal thing, and I think that's an interesting question, actually. Let's see, female and male in terms of man and woman. I mean, I don't know. They're just such... There are terms that they're used to reduce people to, I guess, the sex that they were born as, or the body that they possess. So I guess, when you were talking about this being a women's college, it really emphasized that sort of like idea that your sex and gender are the same. I'm not sure. I mean, there are a lot of terms that use them interchangeably, and I can't, at least right now, think of any differing connotations. I don't know.
Okay. Well, any concluding thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Okay. You would just say, like, bye.
Okay, bye.